Does everybody have a handout for today?
Yes.
Awesome. And if everyone goes down to the second pattern interrupts down part C, complementary interrupts, does everyone have the copy that says, however, they can be used to introduce a reframe due to their pacing and leading nature? Does everyone have a copy that says that? Because there are 10 copies out there that I forgot to add that to the.
Number C, I creates confirmation bias.
Yes, so this additional part right here that I added on to the end, however, they can be used to introduce that some of them don't have that part. So I want to make sure that everybody has a current copy of today's outline, and I did write this down relatively quickly because this is the first time that I'm actually teaching pattern interrupts, because I think that they're really, really, really useful once you understand everything else. But I think that they're really, really not useful, not helpful, and can't really do much for you until you understand everything else in NLP. That's my personal. When I first started using them, they were highly effective for interrupting a pattern, but then where do you go now? Right, so I have no reason to learn them until you learn how to first pre-frame yourself, then reframe the outcome or create a well-formed outcome. It's the same thing as a reframe, and we're going to talk about that in just a second here. Because you guys have been here a long time, you're going to have enough content and enough information from here. You'll be able to go and do your own Google searches on these terms and different things, but I want to be able to do a good job of getting you to understand exactly what these terms mean and how they can be applied to a meta model of reality. And what I mean by that is you can begin to kind of see communication through a certain meta model. Like, this is what a reframe is. Anytime I'm doing this, or anytime any person is doing this, anytime a story is doing this, a book, that's a reframe. And that way immediately your brain can see, oh, this is what they're wanting me to do, or this is what this exercise is about, if that makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about the most important part of NLP, which is pre-framing and reframing. We need to first create, I highlighted it in the middle so nobody would think that it was not the most important thing that we have to do. The most important thing that we have to do when using NLP is create a well-formed outcome. So, first and foremost, in NLP, the thing that most practitioners forget to do with a client or with themselves before they begin working is pre-framing. And I wanted to make sure that we got this down really, really well, because pre-framing applies to one thing. What is the one thing that pre-framing applies to?
The individual giving the communication.
It's you, okay? So, in pre-framing, we pre-frame 3 different areas of ourself. And that's number 1. What's number 1, or I?
Values.
Values and core beliefs, okay? And number 2?
The agenda.
Your agenda. For the day, for the lifetime, what's your agenda? What is your purpose? What's your mission statement? Okay? Last. What's the last thing on the list?
Balance.
Your balance, your ecology. What makes you feel centered and feel like that you have everything under control, your control? What's your ecology? What makes you feel like that you're in control when you're pre-framing, okay? Because do we have control over our environment?
Not the external environment, no.
Not the external environment. We didn't decide where to be born. We didn't decide who to be born to. We didn't decide what type of brain matter we would have, what type of skin color we would have, eye color, none of that stuff. Our environment and the tools that we've been given, we're not responsible for. So when we pre-frame what gives us control over ourselves and the way we react to things, okay? So let's start a little bit with values, cores, and beliefs. If you need to flip this sheet over so that you can start to write these down, you need to start keeping track of the words that matter most to you right now, okay? So let's start with values and core beliefs. What are some values and core beliefs that you know are part of who you are that are not compromisable? These are things that make up who you are.
Integrity.
Integrity. What else? This one's mine. Honesty.
would say for me, self-actualization.
Okay? And write these down for yourself. If this is yours, write it down. Self-actualization, because you are pre-framing yourself right now. What matters to you? Jessica, what's one of your traits, one of your values, something about you that you know is something that you will not compromise? It's a part of who you are.
Loyalty.
Loyalty. Love it. Loyalty. Courage. Anybody in here is like, that's part of who I am. I know that I'm courageous. If it's not you, throw it out. Wise. Strong. Controlled. Empathetic. Write them down. If it's yours and it hits, write it down. If you're like, that is me, that's a core belief. We're pre-framing ourselves in order to make sure that we're not reactive to situations and circumstances and emotions. We are proactive. If I am a person of integrity, if I am a person of honesty, if I am a person who values my self-actualization, if I'm a person who's loyal, strong, courageous, these are things that I pre-frame. I think about them. I meditate on them. I know what these look like. Okay? What else? Other traits, core values, parts of my nature that I will not compromise.
Disciplined.
Disciplined. Good.
Tenacity.
Tenacious. What else?
Organized.
Organized. What else?
On time.
On time. Punctual. Anybody else punctual?
Punctual.
Punctual, on time. What else?
Curious.
Curious. I love it. I'm a very curious person. I'm analytical. I don't know if anyone else is, but I am.
Open-minded.
Open-minded. Okay. Now you should have a pretty good list of 3, 4, some people can write 7, 8 of these. But you should have a pretty good list right now of core values that you can look at and you go, you know what? If someone walks away and has just that of me, and they give that message to another person and they go, I'll tell you right now about Michael Fellwalk. He is tenacious. He is a man of integrity. Does that feel good?
Yeah.
Does that feel like you'd be okay with that?
Yeah.
Maybe they don't say you have a sense of humor. Maybe they don't say you're good looking. But if they say those things, pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Pretty good. What about you, Bill? If somebody says, you know, he's really a guy focused on self-actualization. And I'll be honest with you, he's open-minded.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I mean, whenever you walk away and somebody goes, that's what Bill is, you're kind of like, you know, that's not all I am, but man, that's okay.
Those are not bad things.
Those are not bad things. I'm okay with that. What about you, Jessica? If somebody says, I'll tell you, she's loyal and on time, she is so loyal, so on time, so organized. Are those, if somebody said that, does that matter to you? No. Well, then we need to find what does matter. So those things don't matter. What does matter? What are some things about you that you know?
They do.
Oh, they do matter. Okay, so you're kidding with me. All right, she's messing with me. All right, good. So these are your words. Latch on to them. Know that they're yours. Own them and feel good about it. Pre-frame that this is who I am. These are my core values. These are my beliefs, and I'm okay with it. All right? Now let's move on to the agenda. What is your agenda? What's your calling? What are you supposed to do, you think? What's your goal every day? What makes you feel alive? If you could do this mission every day, every time, and you executed it on time, every time, perfectly, what would that be? What is it that you're designed to do?
I'd say for me to be the best version of myself.
Be the best version of myself. Does anybody have anything else? That's awesome. That's a lot about Bill focusing on what he can control, being the best version of himself. Now, me, I'm going to want to brain map that out a little bit with Bill and build that out and go, what does that mean? Specifically, what does that look like? When you are the best version of yourself, how do you know? When you lay your head on the pillow at night, what did you do that day that you can say, best version of myself?
I made the optimum choice for every decision I was presented with that day.
Optimal choices. Optimal choices that I had available to me that day. I was able to think in real time, clearly.
Right.
I was able to make the right choices, the right decisions based upon good judgment, self-actualization. Those things are important to Bill. Okay? Now, as he considers those things, a little pacing and leading here, as he considers those things about being the best version of himself, about being able to choose optimally every time in real time, what do you see yourself, how does that affect your life most, in what area?
Well, just brainstorming, it cuts down on extraneous drama, it cuts down on wasting focus on things that I don't need to spend time on. It makes my life streamlined and efficient. I'm
There we go.
doing the best that I can, when I can, how I can, and not wasting anything, time, attention, resources on anything that is not.
Good. Perfect. So his agenda is no drama, no waste. What's the opposite of that?
Drama and waste.
What's the opposite of
that? Peace of mind.
Peace of mind. You want, your agenda is peace of mind, and what else?
Efficiency.
What else?
Abundance.
Abundance.
I almost hate to use that word because
It's connected to a lot of stuff, I know, but it's okay if it's your word. It doesn't matter. Words are just representations of some mentalese that we have inside of us that we know is right.
But that's yeah, basically. You know, at the end of the day, I feel like I was rolling downhill.
Good. So you just feel the momentum.
Yeah,
You just feel like you're just rolling.
It was easy. There
It's
was
easy.
no obstacles.
No obstacles.
No.
Okay, so that's your agenda. Now, what do you see yourself being able to do if that's the way you're operating? Like, now, what's your purpose? How are you affecting your environment?
Oh,
How do you
well,
fit in?
when I'm constantly presenting the best version of myself out into the world, you know, whatever it is that I have to offer, society, life, a significant other, you know, people in my life, all that, they get the best of all of that.
They get the best of all of that, and what is that? And what is the outcome of that?
Well, it improves everyone. It improves me, it improves them. It's harmonious, it's fun, it's educational, intelligent. I would say harmony, I guess, would be the overarching phrase there.
Took us a while to get there, but when we got down to what it is that you really want to improve everyone. You want to educate, you want it to be harmonious and fun. That's your agenda, that's your goal.
Okay.
How do you know whenever you get there? Does that sound right? Does that feel right? Does that look right?
Yes, because when you feel that, it's unmistakable.
Right. So that's your agenda, man. That's your mission. You want to improve everyone. You'd love to find the best ways to educate them. You'd love it to be a harmonious exchange. And you want it to be fun. It's okay for you to connect to that now and realize that that's pre-framing who you are. That's the outcome that you want in your life. That's the outcome you want with your environment, with the people around you. Pre-frame it right now and accept it. That is what Bill wants as an ultimate outcome every time. That is your pre-framed outcome for you. That's what's going to make Bill feel most alive.
Yeah, it does.
Good. Now, check the balance and the ecology. Did everyone else have an opportunity while Bill was doing that to think about your own way of doing that? What's your agenda in your life? What is it that you want to accomplish and achieve? How do you leave your environment? Make sure that you do that, okay? Because pre-framing yourself is the first part of creating a well-formed outcome. How the hell are you going to create a well-formed outcome if you don't know who you are and what you want? Okay? Now, balance and ecology. How do you know that everything around you is balanced? We all like to thrive in our profession. We all like to thrive in our relationships. We all like to thrive with physical discipline or our learning. But let's be honest. The hours get away from us. We go through seasons. We go through times. What is the most important things in your life that make you feel balanced? What's important to you? What makes you feel centered? What do you have to have every single day? It's got to be part of my life. It is who I am.
For me, I would say health.
Health.
You know, get up first thing in the morning, go to the gym, work out.
Great. Gym?
I mean, it can be any kind of exercise, you know,
Workout?
but that's what I do, yeah.
Is nutrition important to you?
Yes.
Okay, so how much?
Well, let's just say I'm not going to get up on stage in my underwear anytime soon, but
80-20, 75-25, what do you say, 60-40?
80-20.
80-20?
Because that way
Anyone who doesn't know what that means you 80% of the time you're focused and doing right, and 20% of the time you're allowing yourself a little bit of cheating.
the 20 is not going to kill me.
Right.
The 80 is disciplined enough.
Sure. Great. So for you, that's not really something you think that you'll compromise ever. That's something that's going to make sure that you stay balanced, you stay centered, you focus on that.
I don't even think about it anymore.
It's just part of who you are. It's part of your nature.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so it's part of the ecology. It's part of what Bill needs to make sure that he is a well-balanced, happy person, that he knows that he's capable of handling his agenda. If he has this, and this is in balance, then he's going to be able to improve everyone, educate others, be harmonious, have fun. But if this goes down the drain, Bill,
all that other stuff starts to skew.
exactly. So does everyone see why balance and ecology is important? What else is something that you don't compromise as far as balance and ecology? It's just part of who you are. Pre-frame it. You know it's going to be part of what you do every day.
You know, I make up my own mind.
Okay.
I don't let other people do my thinking for me.
Okay, what does that mean? What does that look like when you do that every day? It's part of your balance.
I think critically about what people tell me and show me.
Okay? And what part of that is a balance thing for you? Why is that something that makes you feel balanced and is good about your ecology?
Because I think it's bad to just take anything anyone tells you or shows you at face value, but it's also bad to just dismiss out of hand things that people tell you or show you. So
Okay, so it's very important to you to make sure that you are always judging what the information you're getting.
Yes.
Okay.
So again, I hate to use the word judgmental because it seems loaded, but it is, yeah, making a judgment based on what people.
Fair judging.
Yeah.
You feel like that's part of your ecology. What about relationships?
Same thing. You know, I believe that people will show you who they are.
Okay.
Don't disbelieve them when they do.
Right? So what relationships are most important to you?
My personal ones,
Like
like
which
family, romantic,
Family?
family, friends, romantic.
Family, friends, and then romance. Okay? These are important to you.
Yeah,
So you're always going to make time for these.
I should and I try. I don't always succeed, but
Okay?
yeah.
So whenever you're pre-framing this, is there any part of this, your values, okay, you being open-minded, you being a curious person, you being a person of self-actualization, wanting to improve everyone, educate, be harmonious and fun, any part of that being violated with your ecology and your balance?
But not violated.
Okay,
I mean,
good.
sometimes I'm not as on it as
Good.
I
Anyone
should.
else? Is there anything about your current ecology right now that's making the rest of this be out of order, imbalanced, not be able to conceive yourself doing it because somewhere you've gotten off track? Relationships, career-wise. What's important career-wise? What do you have to be able to do, balance and ecology-wise, career-wise, for you to feel like you're meeting every mark? Balance and ecology is more about what I have to have in order for me to be able to complete 2 and 1. Bill was right on track whenever he started going into health, nutrition. These are things that he knows he has to have right in order to do the other things. Some people here, it might be a relationship. That if their relationship's off and their marriage is off, they can't do any of the other stuff.
Right, like I don't have kids, but I know for people who do, if their kid's sick or their kid's out of school or their kid's
Absolutely.
struggling,
You can't do any of this other stuff.
everything else goes
You might as
away.
well forget about your values, your agenda, everything. You're not thinking about none of that
Just
shit.
they're focusing on.
Yeah, it's all your balance and ecology goes there, right? So is it a career? Do you have a career thing that's in your mind that's like, it's got to be like this, and if it's not like this, then I feel out of balance? Is that you have to have somebody that's always telling you that you're doing a good job and affirming you, and that's what makes you feel balanced?
Are these things all external? The balance and ecology? Because I'm just looking at the examples. myself.
Pre-framing is
Yeah.
always all about you.
Right.
So as you're considering the things that affect you, you're considering, if they are external, you're owning them.
It's your reaction to whatever.
It's my reaction to the way that people are talking to me.
Okay.
So if you need to hear, I value you, and you realize this is part of my ecology, I need to hear this, then that's something that you have to know that you need to hear, and let the people in your life that you need to hear that from know, hey, occasionally I need to hear, I value you, I don't know why, but for some reason, I need to know that I bring value to your life. It's part of who I am. It's part of what I do. So if I do add value to you, one of the things that makes me feel good is whenever you tell me I value you. And I'm able to do more of this. Improving everyone, I'm able to do more educating. It feels more harmonious to me and more fun when I'm getting this. Now, can you control whether or not somebody gives you that? Once you said it. No, you can't. But you've done what?
At least you identify it.
You prefer, who needs it?
You do.
Yeah.
I do.
Do you find that there's a lot of, for people, like I can see where, most people, I'm just thinking out loud, most people I know would be able to tell you what their values are, if they think about it.
Absolutely.
But their balance and ecology is completely off track.
Absolutely. Most people have no idea
There's the total
what it is that's throwing them off from here and here, and that's why it's so important to pre-frame it out, because it's easy to get into this loop. It gets exciting until you get down to the balance and ecology, and then it's like, what is hindering me from, if this is who I am, and this is what I like, what down here is happening that's preventing this?
Because the values are all internal to you, but the balance and ecology is real life. That's reality.
You got to figure out some way to balance on this tightrope, and that's what we're trying to figure out. Ecology is all about the environment may change, but I got to fit into my environment.
Right.
That's what ecology is all about. It's about maintaining that balance, finding that new center. So if there's any part that's throwing you off and not allowing you mentally to embrace this pre-frame of yourself, then that's where we've got to fix it. So that we can make sure that this person that we pre-frame, that you can see them, you can smell them, you can feel them, you know the energy that this person gives you, and every day you begin executing in more situations and more areas where you're getting results that look like you're leaving the legacy you want to leave. Like all those questions I just asked you, what would it make you feel like if somebody said, Bill's this?
Right.
You're going to start leaving more of that legacy the more and more you start to embrace this. Okay? Does that make sense?
So it can act as a kind of feedback, supposing that your ecology is, for whatever degree, not under your control. Do people change their values to reflect their new ecology? Like if you're a high earner,
yes,
and making money is important to you,
yes,
and suddenly you're not making money, or freedom is important to you, and you get thrown in jail. I mean, you have to change your values to some degree because you can't change your ecology.
We see this a lot with people who argue the right to free speech. It goes back and forth. How far is too far? What's free speech and what's hate speech? We get this a lot, back and forth. My right to swing my fist ends where your nose begins. It's all of this type of back and forth that we have to discover, and we do. We find that a lot of times when one thing changes here,
it changes up there.
It changes everything else. And that's why it's such an important part to get this right, and to make sure that if you can't connect totally with the ecology, then you focus most on what's my values and my agenda, and the ecology will start to balance out. So if you get down to ecology and you can't find the things that make you feel balanced and make you feel centered, maybe focus more on what outcome you're wanting.
Okay.
Focus more on your values and your agenda, and watch the ecology start to line up. Really build out your values, really build out your agenda and the impact that you want to leave on your world, and then watch how much everything starts to balance out, because you'll begin to activate those mirror neurons, and you'll begin to execute more like that guy or that girl that you want to be, that best version of yourself. Okay? So that's pre-framing. It only applies to you. You're not trying to pre-frame outcomes. Okay? What is it whenever you are trying to determine the outcomes you want, the well-formed outcomes? What is that called? How about if I'm trying to change a past incident? What's that called?
Reframing.
Reframing.
I was getting metaphorical there for a minute.
I know, right? So whenever you're trying to change a present situation, reframing.
Yeah.
When you're trying to change a future situation, the way you think about it, reframing. Okay? Anytime we're changing the way we're thinking about and let's go on down to part B, reframing events and moments. Okay? Pre-framing refers to self, us, me. Reframing refers to events and moments. Can be past, can be present, can be future. Let's talk about some different methods and ways that we can reframe an event or a moment. An event or a moment. Let's think of an event that happened yesterday, Michael. Could be anything. Doesn't need to be anything special. Could be just a random moment in time. Anything that you did. Are you thinking of it?
Yeah.
Whenever you think about it, what is it? What do you notice first?
The result.
Okay, so what happened?
Football game, close score.
Okay. Now, whenever you think about that moment right now, where are you sitting in the memory?
In person, looking at it.
You're looking at the television?
Mm-hmm.
Are you sitting in your living room?
There's actually a live event.
Live event, so you were there in person. Watching it, you can hear it, everything's all emotional right there. Okay, good. So, what ways could we try to alter this memory real quick?
Well, any sensory input.
Okay, so like what?
You can make
Size.
it bigger, smaller, louder.
Bigger. Can you really put yourself in that moment and really make it real big?
Yeah.
So we can change what? The size? What else?
Sound.
The sounds? What else can we change about a moment or an event in our mind?
The color, black and white.
Yep.
Full color.
Color, black and white. What else? Whenever you're thinking about a memory, what can you change?
Shape.
The shape of it. What else?
Duration.
The duration, how long it lasted. How about the speed?
Oh, yeah.
How fast it goes, how slow it goes. What about where it happened?
Yeah, it can be a totally different location.
Geography. What about this one? This is my favorite one. Who was in the memory? Who was there? There are unlimited ways of reframing. It's unlimited. It doesn't stop. Our brain's ability to imagine an event or a moment, a situation differently has unlimited capabilities. You can layer a red filter over it, a yellow filter over it. You can hear it muffled through a stereo. You can do whatever you want. It comes from right to left instead of left to right. When you feel it, also feel like you're about to go down a roller coaster at the same time. You can elaborate, you can change, you can alter it. It's all a reframe. Every bit of it. Okay? So when we reframe, we can apply that to well-formed outcomes, which means, let's say tomorrow I've got a big meeting, and I know it's on the calendar, it's been there for a week. If I don't think about it at all, what's the frame?
Unimportant.
If I don't consider it at all and think about it ahead of time in any way, what's probably the existing frame?
No frame.
It's okay.
Probably whatever frame I thought about when I put it into my calendar, that was the last association I made with that event.
So the last time you thought about it.
The last time I thought about it is the most recent thing that I will have, the most recent frame of reference that I've got.
That makes sense.
So, how much power do I have going into that event now, tomorrow, with that frame of reference?
Very little.
Very little. So, if I'm going to go into tomorrow's event, what is the best way for me to give myself the best advantages in that meeting?
Have a pre-framed outcome for it.
Have a pre-framed or a reframed. I know this is kind of hard to get in mind, but it's a pre-frame myself first and then reframe the outcome. Because the frame existed before when I put the event in my calendar.
So ideally you want both.
You want both. So I'm going to pre-frame myself, my all of my values and traits that I value, that I think are most important, and I apply those to myself before I go into the meeting. Then my agenda. What's my outcome? I'm going to improve everyone.
Right.
Before I leave, that's my agenda. That's a simple agenda, dude. It doesn't have to be hard. You can just connect with that.
So the pre-frame is you, because it's you, it's always with you. You don't
It's
have
always
to do
with you.
too much on that.
That's right.
It's the
Yeah, you
pre-frame.
automatically start to behave in that character.
Right.
You take on that role because you pre-frame
That's who you
this
are.
is who I am.
Yeah.
It's what's most important to me. I won't be reactive to my situations. I'll be proactive according to this person who I am.
Right.
Okay, so you pre-frame that. Then you reframe the outcome. Based upon who I am, based upon my core values, based upon my agenda, now, what's my well-formed outcome? How do I reframe it? Okay? So, we create a well-formed outcome. With pattern interrupts, which is what we'll be teaching today, the well-formed outcome has to be clear. You have to know exactly what it is you're going to want to perform with a well-formed outcome. Okay? There are several different types of ways to reframe. We've already seen that, right? So, how do we want to create well-formed outcomes? What are some various ways that you can interrupt a pattern, first of all?
Sound?
Sound, auditory, sure. Auditory or sound,
Visually.
visual, that's right, yep. You can interrupt a pattern visually. We see this all the time. If you're talking to your friend and they have their cell phone sitting out on the table and it's turned with the screen facing up
Yeah.
and it flashes,
Yeah.
everybody's pattern interrupts, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I always intentionally turn mine face down whenever I sit down with anyone so that they know
Yeah.
I'm here to meet with you. I'm not here to mess with my phone. It sends a subconscious message. People really love it. Yeah.
And then kinesthetic.
And the kinesthetic, that's right. Yeah.
You can actually
Like a body movement or pointing.
Sure.
you can grab them and shake them.
Yeah, these are good. We got some written down here too. Let me see. Tonal. Tonal. You can change somebody's with change the tone all of a sudden. You can change the pattern interrupt really quickly. It's not hard to do. That's still auditory. Okay. I'm an auditory person, so I use a lot of auditory pattern interrupts that people aren't aware of. I do it a lot, and it'll just get people from one place right to the other without them even realizing it. And I established them early on in my career before I knew what I was doing. I was doing it a lot, and I did not know what I was doing. So over time, I figured out what it was that I was doing and started being able to do it more intentionally instead of it being accidental.
Right.
So as you're starting to learn these, I want you to try to implement these in ways that are most natural. Probably those are going to be asking questions. Okay? So the most important one, and I think I left the line open for on 6, was so that you don't have to invent something. We're going to focus today on these. Okay? Now I'm going to demonstrate a few pattern interrupts that are out of the norm, out of typical, that are kind of fun, that you can mess around with. If you see somebody that's about to fight or something like that, I can teach you a few things that will interrupt a pattern that will diffuse the situation, and you won't have to worry about de-escalating. Knowing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you can just really take the person out by mentally messing with their head, and they'll just quit thinking about being angry. So the first type of interrupt we have is a contradictory. What does that sound like? It probably is going to do.
The opposite.
You're going to disagree with whatever they're saying.
Disagree with whatever they're saying, pretty much, right? So it's going to be a contradictory interrupt. And it creates negative results and breaks rapport. Every single one of us have done this before in the middle of a fight. I did that yesterday. No, you didn't. That is a pattern interrupt. Will it get you the results you want?
Probably not.
Probably not. What does it probably do? What does that do to somebody's Olympic system whenever you contradictorily interrupt their pattern?
Gets them in that fight or flight response.
Fight or flight mechanism kicks in, and now they either want to kill you or get the hell away from you, right? So is there ever a time when we want to use a contradictory pattern interrupt?
For me personally, yes, but
Okay, give me a situation or a scenario when it might be a good thing to give someone a negative pattern interrupt.
well, when I'm stuck in a conversation or a situation I don't want to be in.
Okay, and so give me a way that you might be able to do that where the person will want to get away from you, but maybe it's not you. It's just the pattern interrupt that you implement.
I get approached at Quick Trip every single time I go there by people asking me for money.
Okay, and so what is a way that you would naturally interrupt that pattern and make that person want to get away from you?
Well, preemptively I ignore them, but sometimes that doesn't work. So they'll start on their spiel, hey man, whatever, and I just say no thank you.
Okay, good, no thank you. Is no thank you a response that people are typically used to getting in a situation like that?
Not before they even ask the question.
Right, what are they used to getting?
Oh, sorry, I don't have any.
I don't carry cash, man. I'm really sorry, I don't have anything to spare.
Right.
Something else, an apology.
Some polite
It's like I'm helpless almost.
Yeah.
Like I did something wrong to you.
I would give you $100, but I just,
But I just don't happen to have it. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I've done something wrong here.
Yeah.
Whereas yours is a preemptive, no thank you. No
It's like
thanks.
they're trying to sell me something.
Hey, no thanks, guys. No thanks, guys. Right? It's a pattern interrupt.
Yeah.
Jessica sees me do this a lot. I do very similar things out in public a lot whenever people come up. And a lot of times whenever people go to sell me something and they want to show me a brochure, I'll grab the brochure and keep walking. A lot of times I'll be like, dude, thank you, man, I can't wait to read this. And just keep going. And I'll tell you, man, it's totally like, they don't know what to do. But that's not necessarily a negative. That's actually a positive.
Well,
But
you defuse them because
Sure.
you took their brochure, but they don't get a chance to
Correct.
waste your time and do their spiel.
there you go. So let's try to determine, are there any times when you want to implement a negative pattern interrupt? That's
Maybe
contradictory.
If you're fighting.
Okay,
You
and
wanna
why
stop-
would you want to?
You want to stop the fight.
Stop the fight. And so if I directly contradict and interrupt their pattern with something that is blatantly contradictory to the pattern that they're running, will that give me the result I want?
Theoretically. I mean, if it's just a
Stops
great
that
contact.
pattern. If that's what you want, that it stops the pattern,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that. to
I
me
will
is-
tell you the most common way that this is used. Okay? The most common way that this is used is that she says to him, you always do that. You always do that. Yeah.
Right. You always or you never.
And then he says, contradictory pattern interrupt, you always do this. Okay? And then pattern interrupt comes back, because you. He, because you.
They're just throwing it back and forth on each other.
Right. So, the only time that you might want to offer the contradictory pattern interrupt might be what?
To agree.
Yeah, you're right. Then what are they going to be mad about?
A contradictory pattern interrupt right there would be, yeah, that's right, I always do that, don't I? I've done it every single time. And I will continue to do it every single time because that's my pattern and I always do it every single time and I will never stop. Or will I? I mean, that is exactly what I've always done. Sometimes that right there is a contradictory enough to where it's just like, wait a minute, did I just get what I wanted or did I not get what I wanted? Might be the only time that the contradictory pattern interrupt works, right? So what about complementary interrupts, which actually is more in line with what I just did? Complementary interrupts.
You're agreeing with them.
Complementary interrupts, yes. But what way am I doing it? Am I being sarcastic at all?
No, this should be sincere.
It's a sincere, like what I just did was completely sarcastic.
Exactly.
It was completely playing into the dialogue, completely contrarian, but still agreement. I wasn't agreeing with my tonality, so the pattern interrupt was contrarian. It was contradictory. A complementary interrupt would be the exact opposite. It creates confirmation bias. Does everyone know what confirmation bias is? It's also called cognitive dissonance. It's also called the feedback loop of emotionalism. It is what happens to us whenever we get in a tribal situation where two people are agreeing on the same thing in the same way. It happens a lot in churches. It happens a lot with football fans.
Politics.
Yeah, politics, rock concerts where people like the same band. These are times whenever we get into a loop of confirmation bias. And this distracts from belief building though, because there's no challenge to beliefs.
Right.
So you're just continuing down that loop. So they're happy, you're maintaining rapport, everything's good, but there's no beliefs being challenged here. Nothing as far as creating new behaviors or changing patterns is occurring. When you're using a complementary interrupt, it's just a way to carry forward the conversation into a positive way. Okay? So what you're going to see there is that this can be used to introduce a reframe. So if I were to say, Michael, why is it that you enjoy football, you think, so much?
I think it's commonality.
Absolutely, commonality, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly why you love it.
Yeah.
That is a complementary pattern interrupt. Most people don't expect that much agreement with something that's just their belief. Something that they believe it to be true. I think this, but yeah, exactly, right? Now, once I've built that rapport and I've agreed with his belief, how he's formed that belief, that's a great time to introduce a reframe. Okay? Now, do you think that everybody that likes football likes it because of that? Or do you think that there are other people out there that like it for other reasons?
Absolutely.
Sure. What might be a better reason to like football?
The energy.
The energy, right? So now I've taken the conversation, and rather than allow him to continue down the belief system that he created, I agreed with it, pattern interrupt, and reframe.
You're taking the emotion and applying it to a new thought.
A new thought, correct. Redirecting the flow of emotion. Okay? So an agreement, a complementary interrupt, can allow that reframe to come in and be almost subversive, like you don't even see it coming.
Right.
Okay? So that's a very powerful way to implement a swish, a map across, a anchor right here. Anytime you've got them right there with a complementary interrupt, it's a good time to implement your swish pattern, your map across, your anchor, your reframe. Any NLP techniques that we've learned over the past 5 or 6 weeks that you guys have been in here, if you implement the complementary interrupt where you automatically agree with an emotional statement of belief and you say, yeah, exactly, great, perfect, it's exactly what I was looking for, and that's how you know that. And now that you know that, as you consider that, that leads you to believe this, which gets you to accept this. It's pace and lead, right? So you can even use pacing and leading at that point. After the pattern interrupt. Because they're not used to people doing that. They're not used to that type of complementary pattern interrupt. Exactly! Yeah! You do have it figured out. You do know what's going on. And then, boom. When you think of that, what do you see in your mind? Is it clear? Is it vivid? Is it in color? Is it black and white? Now, picture the perfect image of yourself and smash that image. That's your swish. When you think about the thing that you're talking about just now and you like it, how does that come into your mind? Where do you see it? Do you have anything that you dislike? And how do you see that? Map them across. You guys see that? Right after the complementary interrupt, you can implement almost any NLP technique because the complementary interrupt puts them into that cognitive dissonance, that feedback loop, and that is a place of trance. That is a place where we're in total agreement, total rapport, and the next thing that comes can be something that's neuro-linguistic programming technique related, can just slide right in. Okay? However, I have found that the most powerful is the neutral interrupt. The neutral interrupt. It allows me to go wherever I want. Do you have any memory or anything, Michael, that the minute that you think about it makes you sad? Do you guys think this table is like, what, 3 foot? Something like that? Or what? I don't know. Pattern interrupt that's neutral goes nowhere. Has nothing to do with the topic.
So it's a non sequitur?
A non sequitur, total interrupts of the pattern, doesn't matter, has no emotional place to head, and most of the time can interrupt that, what's starting to happen. That emotional loop that's coming. Something as simple as that, just breaking the pattern. I use this most often whenever I see a fight coming. When I see a fight coming and I see something like that, I'll step up close and did you guys see that? Is that a new Tesla? Right in the middle of it. And both people turn around looking kind of like, what man? I don't know. What? It's a neutral interrupt. Has nothing to do with, nobody's going to care. If I step up in the middle and I go, hey man, it's not right to hit a girl. I'm still interrupting the pattern, but what's going to happen?
Now you're the target.
Now I'm a target, right? If I step in the middle and I go, is that a brand new BMW? Did you guys see the model that came out yesterday? Now everyone doesn't know where to go with this. Are we fighting still? Okay, so this is a neutral interrupt. Now this creates a dissociated result. Okay? Breaks the pattern and causes confusion in the trigger-based pattern. The most famous version on record of this is Tony Robbins in the middle of a seminar with a woman who's in the middle of depression talking about it, and he throws a cup of water on her face. He walks over to the table. She's in the middle of talking about it. He grabs a cup of water and throws it on her face. And she stops and looks at him and he goes, I am so sorry. I was getting you a drink and I tripped. Are you okay to continue? I really want to help you. Are you okay to continue? Yeah, I can talk about it. Okay, just start where you left off. She starts again. He walks over to the table, grabs a cup of water. She gets about 2 seconds in and boom, right in her face. And she goes, oh my God, what are you doing? And he stops and he goes, I'm so sorry. Were you in the middle of, weren't you talking about something that was really, really important? It seems like a cup of water wouldn't distract you. If you really need to tell this, let's get to the bottom of it, please. There's a lot of people here watching. And immediately she's just like, okay. And she goes back to get into it. And he walks over to grab another cup of water. And she's just like, I'm sorry. Every time I think about it now, I just see water. And she could not generate at all anymore those feelings that were associated. Now, I didn't follow that case. I don't know what ended up happening with that person. But I do know that before she left that conference, it was very hard for her to remember what it was like to be depressed. Because every time she did, she had a pattern interrupt that was going to occur.
I was going to ask before you gave this example, so if you're dealing with people who are trapped in a very powerful negative emotion, you may have to do these interrupts more and more.
I do them quite frequently.
Because one time is just not going to cut.
Absolutely. And I've found a lot of different ways to do them. When I'll be working with somebody who's very, in the middle of going through something and they're depressed, a lot of times I'll go, hey, would you do me a favor, pick your favorite color out of those? And then they'll say it, and I'll say, great, thank you. And I'll start writing, and I'll go, well, that doesn't really work. When they're in the middle of it, I'll be like, give me that other word. And I'll start writing, and I'll be using my finger instead of the marker, and I'll be like, well, that one doesn't work. Hang on. I'm sorry, I know this is difficult, but could you give me another favorite color? And after I do that about 3 times and they're talking about it, we get about to the 3rd time and they're like, I don't know. I don't know. They're used to being able to generate these emotions. It feels like I'm stuck in the mud. It feels like I'm this. It feels like I'm that. And every time I do, I just feel broken. And they're used to being able to just do. And they've never had anybody stop them and go, what's your favorite color? And in context, when I'm doing this, it seems totally natural. Nobody cares.
Right.
It's in the middle of a conference. I'm working with this person. I say, what's your favorite color? Would you pick your favorite color? Everybody looks at that and goes, totally normal. He's working on the board. He's helping. This is interaction. As long as it's natural and in the moment doesn't seem at all like you were doing anything, nobody notices. Nobody knows what you're doing.
Is it possible to do this to yourself?
Yes, it is.
I mean, because you know what you're doing, but...
Yes, it is. It's a lot more complicated. You have to be able to identify your own triggers and your own patterns, and that most of the time people have not sat down with themselves long enough to map out their emotions. Most people don't know what depression feels like. Most people haven't sat down and really mapped out what joy feels like, what happiness is, and contentment. So they don't know the difference from when they switch from fear to anger to, they don't know. And if you spend a lot of time really with that, like you're a person that admires and seeks self-actualization, I do too. And that's become part of this whole thing, is being able to understand my own emotions.
Yes, yes.
Like when I'm angry, what does that feel like?
Right.
When it starts, how does it start? When I notice it. What's the first thing that I notice when I do see it, when I do feel it? And the more and more you get connected with those emotional feelings and those emotional states, the easier it is for you to identify your triggers. Mine are almost entirely auditory. Almost entirely. For anger or for anxiety, they're almost entirely auditory. I'll be sitting in a room and be just fine, and then all of a sudden I'm just like, I'm hearing something I've got to find. Once I find it, normally I'm fine, but auditory triggers will set me off, and it took me a long time to realize what it was, and it's because I'm an auditory person, so they mess with me if I'm not focused on them. But now that I know what they are, and I know that I have auditory triggers, the minute it starts, I'll look at Jessica and I'll go, hey, there's something, I need to find a sound, sorry. I know now what it is, I don't
Then
get
it
mad.
becomes a game. What's that?
Yeah, where?
Yeah, I'm like, I gotta find
I
something.
get to help
that's
them,
like-
like,
there's simple little nuances, things that most people wouldn't notice, like a child with a speech impediment, somewhere in the room, and it's in a crowded restaurant, and I can just hear it, and it's just, I don't know what, there's either something in this kid's mouth, or they got something's going on.
Yeah.
There's little things like that, and it's not something that everybody notices. But Jace has a friend who stays the night with us who is a clicker and is just always tapping stuff, clicking stuff, turning stuff on and on. And I have to remind myself before that kid comes over.
Don't go ballistic.
There's going to be noises in the house.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be unusual noises in the house. There's going to be lots of doors opening and shutting. There's going to be lots of stuff happening. So it's going to be okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. So once you identify what activates those triggers and you get good at that, yes, you can interrupt your own patterns with new patterns, but it does take that self-actualization. It takes that dedication to that mentality.
Because when I watch you demonstrate it with him, it's very obvious and apparent, and you can see how it works. But I've been through periods of my life where I was stuck in a bad cycle of thought.
And you're
emotion,
probably
there was no one
going
to do that with me. So
you're probably more going to be the person to help others with this, and you're probably going to have to seek someone out like me when you're in a similar situation for yourself, which over time you'll find that you can actually create the scripts that you need for yourself and have a friend read them to you.
Yeah, he's actually done that before for himself. Like, he wrote out a script and then made me ask him the questions. I had no idea what I was doing, but it worked.
So just hearing an outside source say the words to you.
And making you answer them, because you'll change it in your own mind.
Oh.
You'll alter it and give a different answer. But if somebody's asking you the question and you say, hey, make me answer that. Don't allow me to go off of it. Make me answer it.
Interesting.
I literally thought about that yesterday,
Yeah,
if that's possible.
it is possible. Yes. But I have to write out the script and I have to hand it to somebody else, because if I sit there and do it in my own head and I run myself through it, it's never real.
Right, because you don't have any objectivity.
It's a mental ease. It's a game that I'm playing inside of my head. It might as well be a chess game that I'm playing with the best player ever. I'm the player. I've already constructed all these situations and ways to get around my arguments for why I'm stuck in this.
Right.
I've been doing it for forever. And it's not even a real argument. It's a bunch of pictures and ideas and concepts, and it's the most solid argument ever because it's not real.
Well, and also because you've spent years building an argument.
That's
If
right.
you're like me, I mean,
Correct.
literally decades.
Literally decades of making sure that I don't ever forget that this is who I am, this is how I act, this is the way I behave. And so once you realize that this is who I am, this is how I act, this is the way I behave, but I don't want to anymore, I'd like to change that. When I do this, I'd rather do that.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. You just have to sit down and figure out what it is you'd rather have.
Yeah.
You pre-frame who
some
you
people
are.
never get to that point.
Pre-frame who you are, reframe the outcomes that you want, and then use anything that I've taught you over the past 6 weeks in order to get there.
Yeah.
They're all visualization techniques. They're all self-actualization things. They're all things that you have to intentionally, in your mind, sit down with purpose to do. And there's unlimited ways that you can do it. It's based upon your imagination and whether or not we are pattern-seeking primates. That's just what we are. We're pattern-forming, pattern-seeking primates, and that has caused us to do lots of amazing things. But one of the things that makes us do is get stuck in patterns that aren't working for us and not realize or be able to identify them because we create them without thinking.
Right.
We just do it. And most of the models we've created are based upon seeing a model of someone else in our lives at some point.
So can a pattern interrupt work with not just the way somebody feels, but the way somebody behaves?
Yes.
So if they want, like you just said, like they grew up with, maybe, a certain type of parent and they decide they want to not be like that at all, even though they see that they're already like that, you can change that pattern too.
Okay, so in what could you elaborate just a little bit on in what way would you want to change the behavior? Like what would the outcome be? Now, it is this way when this happens, and it would be better if it were like this. If you could give me some.
Say you had a parent who, never cooked dinner.
Okay.
And you want to be a mom who always cooks dinner.
Okay.
And you're not currently cooking dinner. This is not really neat, and you're not currently cooking dinner for the family, and because you never saw your mom do it, and you want to create a new habit, you want a pattern interrupt, you want to start doing something different.
Yes. So as a practitioner, I could help somebody with a pattern interrupt to help them create new patterns. In that situation, if somebody came to me and they actually said they wanted to do that, I would actually probably use some variation of the swish pattern or the mapping across for this specific thing. But if someone came to me and they were, let's say, emotional about that, and every time they started to talk to me about how, how they want to cook for their family, but they start like bawling, crying, getting in the middle, slobbering, can't really get through it, I'm going to use a pattern interrupt to get through the conversation.
Okay.
To get the emotion out.
To get the emotion out of it and get it removed, I'm going to interrupt those patterns a lot and get them out of that feedback loop so that they can get some perspective, so that they can gain some clarity in this moment. Because the thing that they're experiencing while they're crying and while they're going through that isn't happening to them, really. But in their mind, it is. It is. The same way that it's always occurred to them. That pattern is repeating over and over and over. It can't be broken until it gets broken. So when they begin to go into that depressive state or that anxious state, that's whenever I watch for it. When I start to see it, that's when I'm going to break the pattern. And the best way, in my opinion, to do that is with the neutral interrupt. Is by asking a question that's neutral, that is unrelated. Hey, I'm going to grab a drink of water. Did you want anything? I'm so sorry to interrupt. I promise we'll pick right back up.
You do that to me, go on.
Hell yeah!
Every time I go on any type of an emotional rant, he pretty much stops me.
Great.
And it's neutral. It's neutral. It's always something super neutral. And I will come back, actually. I'm not going to interrupt the pattern and forget about it.
You just want to take it.
I just want to interrupt it. In fact, if I forget about it, then we've done nothing. The next time she goes into it, that pattern is not going to be interrupted. She's going to go right back into it. She's not going to remember this moment. The brain's limbic system didn't break anything, any association. It just didn't get finished. That's all that happened in that one situation. So I want the pattern to be interrupted. Not just once. I want it to be a pattern, and I want to interrupt it. And then I want to see the pattern, and then I want to interrupt it. And then I want to see the pattern, and then I want to interrupt it.
How many times?
Until I can see that the pattern isn't going to stick easily. Until I can tell when they start to go back into it again, their brain is automatically pulling out of it almost immediately when they go into it.
And you can tell just by the feedback you get, it's not as emotional, it doesn't last as long, it's not as...
Correct. You'll be able to read it because of all the training you guys have been doing on micro expressions and things like that. You'll see it. You'll see the breathing start to get less and less. Plus, you've experienced it yourself. when something has been traumatic and it hurt the first time you thought about it, and then the second time you thought about it, and then the third time I was like, you know, I think I'm getting over this, and then the fourth time. This is what we're doing, is we're running them through that quickly. But they've never been allowed the opportunity to break that pattern. They've always gone all the way through it.
Yeah.
They've always suffered the pain of it, and a lot of times it's put them into a 2-week depression.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to let that happen. We're going to keep breaking that pattern with, before we write that down, what was your favorite color before I get started? Perfect. Great. Now go ahead and start over from the beginning. Did you want coffee? I totally forgot to ask you. Is that rude? I'm totally off base of whatever it was that we were talking about. Asking questions, interrupting those patterns. Did I just get something on the shirt? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be.
So it seems like for both contradictory and complementary, you're utilizing the emotion, whatever it may be. And so I guess that's why you like the neutral, because it takes out all that, removes it from the interaction.
Neutral asks a new question. It introduces a new concept in the brain. What do we know about the human mind when it's asked a question?
It searches for an answer.
Why? Because from the time you're my kid's age, we're taught to have an answer.
Yeah.
And we're taught to look for one. We're taught to find one. And what do we get when we get it right in class?
Praise.
Praise, we get gold stars. We want the right answer.
You get positive feedback.
That's right. So whenever I ask a neutral question, what's that person's automatic response?
Trying to find the answer.
Trying to find the right answer. Are they still thinking about the other thing? No. So I always interrupt. When I can see a negative emotion, I interrupt it with a neutral interrupt.
Especially like, I guess if they're like a visual person and then you really use something visual, or if they're like kinesthetic, then you can really say something kinesthetic.
Absolutely.
If they're auditory, then you know like exactly how, like you can utilize which way to break it depending on the person.
Whichever works.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The better you get at being able to identify whether somebody is a visual learner, auditory, or kinesthetic, the better equipped you will be to be able to introduce the right pattern interrupt at the right time. A neutral one. Does it feel cold in here to you? If they're a kinesthetic person? I've been messing with the thermostat. Did you feel, whenever you came in, did you feel cold or are you hot? Too hot. If I can tell they're kinesthetic and they start going into those, that's neutral, right? Totally neutral question. It's going to interrupt the pattern of what they're talking about, but they're not going to know why, because I'm speaking in their language, first of all, and then secondly, it's neutral. That's not going to offend them. That's not going to hurt them at all. You see the difference there?
Would you use kind of a combination of those, maybe a facial, try to do it along with whatever interrupt you're doing, along with the auditory, movement, looks.
So do I incorporate multiple things with that interrupt? Absolutely, I do. I want you to focus on questions.
Gotcha.
Until you get really good at them. I always implement a visual, auditory, and kinesthetic interrupt at the same time. Because I'm an anchoring fanatic. I mean, my whole thing has been anchoring since I first started.
Look at that car. You're going, oh, look at that car.
I mean, if you're going to see me do, if you ever see me do anything, and the funny thing is that people don't notice how animated I am.
Right.
Whenever it's in real time, they don't notice it because there's so many things happening at once. You don't really, it's such something to take in that people don't really pick up on everything that's happening.
Yeah.
One of the things that I realized whenever I was studying magic and illusion, which has a lot to do with hypnosis, NLP, and different things like that, because it's sleight of hand. You get people looking one way while you're doing something else. You know what you're doing when you're using these skills and stuff, but nobody else does. But whenever I was out in public, I noticed that there were certain things that I could do, and that people would it would draw attention, but I didn't have to do much, and then it just looks totally natural whenever I'm out in public. But before I know it, I've got a crowd watching me, just by the way I'm moving and doing things. And I'm not doing anything special, just having a conversation. I'm just talking. But if I wanted to make sure that people were watching and wanted to get attention, I could find ways to do that. So I'm constantly making sure that I know how to distract, I know how to interrupt, I know how to get you looking one way so that I can do something here. It's part of knowing the outcome.
Yeah.
I know the outcome I want.
And they don't.
And they don't. And that's the most powerful part of using any of these skills is well-formed outcomes. Get it in your head. What your values are, who you are, what makes you up, the type of agenda that you want in every circumstance and situation, and then get your skill set down. Know what you can do, and your brain will start to just do it. You'll just start to implement it. You'll use pacing and leading when it's necessary, mapping across when it's time. You'll just walk right into the switch pattern. You'll be using reframing all the time. And then pattern interrupts are going to be your next thing that you just do automatically. It's just going to be something that when you see somebody when you see somebody getting into some sort of depression or emotional state, you're going to be like, hey, you're 5'7". I'm serious. You look 5'11". I'm in 11. Did I say 7? You see how it doesn't even matter what it is. I meant 11. I said 7. And now all of a sudden we're on something totally different. It's an easy thing to implement a pattern interrupt, but you got to have an objective, right? An outcome. These are simple. You've been doing them your whole life. You know what they are. None of it matters without an outcome.
Yeah, you've just been doing it without a purpose, just for.
That's right. Yes, sir.
Jessica, I think everybody, when you see a kid crying, that's the easiest and the most natural.
Yeah. And what do?
You know,
The minute you see a kid crying, what do?
You usually like, hey, what? I mean, most people want to give them food or movie or entertainment. You know,
Food, movie, entertainment. Why? Food, movie, entertainment. Just
nice clothes.
What are we trying to do?
Trying to break that pattern of crying.
Break that pattern with what? What is food?
No, they're neutral. They're all neutral.
Yeah, they're all neutral. They have nothing to do with this, right? Nothing to do with what's happening. It's an interrupt with something completely new and neutral, probably entertaining, probably fun. And what do kids do most of the time when we do that?
They change.
They change?
They
They change? Or they do what? What's the other thing they do? Whenever you're trying to comfort a kid, you keep trying to give it
Sometimes,
to them?
sometimes they flip out and get worse.
Get out of my face.
Yeah.
So what do you think happens whenever you start to try to interrupt people's pattern and they see it coming with stuff that's like,
Yeah, you get resistance.
don't you want to be happy? Don't you want to be happy in your life? Come on, you don't want to feel like that. You don't want to be down. Don't you want to be happy, Michael?
Yeah.
You resist it.
Get out of my face. Get out of my face. You don't want that. You don't want that pacifier. That's why pattern interrupt has to be neutral. If it's a dead giveaway, that baby doesn't want that. They want neutral. They want something that's going to interrupt their pattern that they didn't see coming. That they don't know you're trying to put in their face.
Because you're pushing.
That's right. People are the same way. They don't want a pacifier. They don't want you to give them a passy. But they're happy to get you, for you to break their attention and give them something interesting. Something just different, out of the ordinary. That'd be great. Don't give me a pacifier. Pacifier, I don't need your little pep talk. That's not what this is. We're not interrupting them to get them on the side of positive. We're just interrupting.
Yeah.
Just changing it. Just changing the pattern that their brain's gotten used to, and then we'll worry about shifting some stuff around if they even want it shifted. Right now, we just want to get them to a place where they can make a decision. Interrupting the pattern is not so much about actually changing much. It's about stopping the existing pattern to see if they even want to.
I guess that leads me to the question, the example about the kid crying, right? I actually have seen this happen in the bookstore when I'm there reading. There's a certain type of parent or a certain type of person, they want to engage in the pattern and solve the problem.
Yep.
Oh, why are you crying? You must be so sad. Who hurt you? And the kid is just getting deeper and deeper into it.
Because they're feeding off,
Right.
They're getting more attention.
So that's counterproductive
Yes.
at that point. That's why you want to break it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm actually feeding into the exact thing that they're wanting, whereas a baby or a child actually wants the attention. That's what they want. They don't necessarily want that pacifier. Just like a person wants attention. They don't want your pacifier. But they don't realize that my attention isn't going to help you.
This is very tricky for me because I like to solve problems.
Yes, you're a problem solver.
That's my first, you're
Most people who come to these types of classes are.
Yeah, so you're having problems with your boyfriend, and you're crying and drunk and talking about it for 4 hours, and let's just not.
Yep.
So these pattern interrupts, I wish I'd known this years ago.
Right, so I was in a bar the other night, and I have friends who know what I do for a living, and I'm in a bar the other night with them hanging out, just having fun, right? A girl comes over, has been drinking a little too much, and she comes over and says, hey, my friends that I just met over here, and she points at some of my friends who know me, said that you're some sort of mind guy that can help me get my mind right. I'm in a bad place. And I said, hey, listen, I absolutely would love to talk to you about that. And in fact, I'm going to give you my card in a second. But did you come here tonight to have fun? Or did you come here tonight for
wallow in sorrow
to get stuff figured out and get your life on track? I just want to know what your goals are. I'd be more than happy to go whichever direction you want, but I mean, I'm here to have some fun. Is that what you want to do, or do you want to go over in the corner and kind of... And she was like, oh no, I can't have fun. I was like, let's have fun tonight. Let's just go ahead and have fun tonight. I'll hear about all your problems tomorrow. Whenever you call me, you set an appointment, I'll hear about it then. Tonight, let's have a good time. You know what? You're right. Out there just having fun, rest of the night, totally happy. Why did I interrupt that pattern instead of dealing with the problem?
You're going to get trapped in that, same loop. She's going to be doing the same thing she's done in her head 1,000 times.
Right now, is she in any type of mental state to deal with this?
No.
She's intoxicated.
She's intoxicated. She's not in any mental state to deal with this. So what's the best possible scenario?
Just get her out of that.
Get her out of that state. Get her out of that wallowing. Get her out of that mental state with a neutral interrupt. Get her back into the thing that I know she really wants. She wants to feel good tonight. She doesn't want to feel sad. So interrupt that pattern, get it back over. I'm happy to talk about that. Happy to hear about it.
This is a big moment of clarity.
All of a sudden, light
Thinking
bulbs.
back in my past, because I engaged with these people in their problems, and, and it just didn't go anywhere.
Absolutely.
I spent hours and hours and hours of time.
There you go.
And then what do they associate you with?
That grief,
Yeah.
that moment of despair.
Yeah.
And anytime they want to vomit all their problems on somebody,
Yeah.
Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nope. That's not my job. That's not what I do. I help people get on the other side of their problems.
Right.
I help people get successful solutions. And that's what, and I'm going to use all of my skills to get them there. Well-formed outcomes. I want to help everybody. I want to improve everybody. I'm going to impact their life in a positive way. How am I going to do that if I sit here and let you wallow in something that will never solve your problems?
So the help that they're looking for is not necessarily the help they need.
That's right.
And you have to be the one.
You have to be the one that's smart enough to know the difference. That's right. Yes, sir. Last questions here. We got to get
It
out.
goes back to your have want.
Yes.
The reframing, know what you want is your have want, because she had that problem.
The have one technique, if anybody ever wants it, you go to my webpage, jamespesch.com, sign up for the free transformation exercise, and you'll get the have one technique for free. A video to walk you through it. Anyway, go ahead and continue.
Well, you start, so she has whatever her situation is.
Mm-hmm.
You neutralize the pattern, interrupted it, and later you're going to work on the one.
Mm-hmm.
But until
it's time, we don't really have time.
Yeah.
It's really how I tell people is that, yeah, I'm more than willing to help you, but until you have time, we don't have time.
Okay, you're just stuck in have. You're just wallowing in the have, and you never get to the.
Yep. We got to form a well-formed outcome. What is it what does that look like to you? Once you get good at being able to pre-frame yourself and form your own well-formed outcomes, you're going to find that most of your power comes from helping others pre-frame themselves and form their own well-formed outcomes. Most of your job is done.
Because once you get them pointed in the right direction, the rest of it.
Once you get them connected with their values and their agenda, this thing that has been holding them back and making them feel weighed down, it's not that important.
Goes away.
Yeah, their values and their agenda is much higher on what they want to accomplish than this thing that they thought they wanted to talk about. So, good job today, guys. Does anyone have any other questions about pattern interrupts? Was this clear as mud?
It was good.
Awesome. Good, good. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, pattern interrupts go much deeper, much further, but I want you focusing on asking questions, neutral questions. When you want to interrupt a pattern, focus on your well-formed outcome, who you are, what you want to accomplish before you use them. It will be highly effective. And please give me feedback. I know that Jessica, almost every time we walked outside and there were blue clouds or puffy white clouds and blue sky for about the past week, she got happy and felt a sense of gratitude.
I feel good.
She got a sense of gratitude, and it had everything to do with Bill putting in a hypnotic induction in his pacing and leading last time we were here, and that was awesome feedback, awesome to hear about that. So if you guys have any experiences where you're able to use this and to help empower you in any way, I'd love to hear that stuff. So, thank you.